So I'm back with your next class, and today's class is all about sexual reproduction. So in the previous classes we have discussed asexual reproduction, and I hope all of you have understood that well. So let's start. Sexual reproduction. So sexual reproduction is otherwise a very complex process, but if you ask me how do we define it in a single line, in that case we can say that the main major event that is associated with it is that sexual reproduction is a process in which gametes are formed and they are fused to finally give rise to a zygote, and this zygote will give rise to a new organisms. Now, sexual reproduction process consists of certain important characteristics. Let's see what are they. The characteristics associated with sexual reproduction will be exactly opposite to what we have discussed in asexual reproduction. Like, first, in sexual reproduction, there will be two parents mostly involved. So it is mostly biparental. Because it is mostly biparental, that's why it will involve gametic fusion, or which we call as syngamy. Alright? Next, because from two different individuals gametes are being formed and they are being fused, that means here genetic recombination is going to be present. Genetic recombination is present. As because it has genetic recombination, of course, it allows variation. That means, like in a sexual mode of reproduction, I had told you that the progeny will be exact clones to the parent. Here, the progeny will show variation. They are not going to be exactly like the parent. They will have similarities, but then there will be variations as well. And of course, it is going to be a slow, elaborate, and complex process. Alright? So it's just like the characteristics that we have discussed in a sexual mode, opposite to that. Alright? Note it down. These are very, very important. Now, let us go into details of sexual reproduction. Now, all of you would agree that for any organism to undergo sexual reproduction, they have to attain a particular amount of maturity. Alright? It's not that from birth itself reproductive capability remains. So an organism has to wait and has to give itself some time until it becomes mature enough to undergo reproduction. So if that is so, then the life cycle of a particular organism can be divided into certain phases. Alright? Let's discuss those phases first. For every living organism, there are mainly three phases in the life cycle. First, juvenile phase. Juvenile phase is basically a phase in which the organism, it will start to prepare itself for reaching the reproductive phase. It's a preparation phase where the organism will grow to attain that level of maturity when it can finally start to reproduce. So, here mainly growth will take place. It's marked by the occurrence of growth. Next is reproductive phase. going to be the final phase when reproduction would take place. So growing in the juvenile phase, the organism has now attained a particular maturity so that now it has entered reproductive phase where it can finally reproduce. Now in case of plants, if we talk about, in higher plants, reproductive phase is going to be very much visual because it will be marked by the presence or formation of flowers. In higher plants, reproductive phase is going to be marked by the presence or the formation of flowers. So as soon as flowers are going to form, we know that the plant has entered reproductive phase. Now if we are talking about flower here, in that case you must again know that plants, they don't flower throughout their life cycle, or in different plants there are different types of patterns of flowering or fruiting. So according to the pattern of flowering and fruiting, plants again can be of two types. Monocarpic and polycarpic. Alright. Monocarpic means, mono means one, carp means fruit. So in that case, here the plants will be flowering or fruiting only once in their life cycle. They will flower or fruit only once in their life cycle. Alright. Now all the biennials or annuals and biennials, all of you have heard the term so many times in class 11. Annuals means plants which grows for only 1 year. Their life cycle consists of only 1 year. And biennial means it consists of 2 years. Alright. So in that case, all annuals and biennials, they are monocarpic. Fine. But then perennials, the plants with life cycle of more than 2 years, for them even, there are some few exceptions who will be monocarpic under that category. Like for example, bamboo. Certain species of bamboo like Bambusa tulda. I'm writing it here. Bambusa tulda. It is going to be an exception. This is a perennial plant. It will grow for 50 to hundreds of years. Then it will flower only once, fruit profusely, and then finally it will die. Similarly, there is another exceptional plant that's called Strobilenthus kunthiana. Strobilenthus kunthiana is otherwise commonly known as Nila Kuranji. It flowers once in every 12 years. And last time it flowered was in September to October of 2006. Because of the flowering, because this plant shows mass flowering, the entire hilly tract of Kerala, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu had been completely covered by blue stretches. And that had given, or that had, attracted a lot of tourist attractions. Okay. So that was regarding monocarpic plants. Next, going to polycarpic. As the name itself suggests, poly means multiple or many. So polycarpic means this particular plants, they will be flowering or fruiting many times, repeatedly at short intervals in their life cycle. So they will flower or fruit many times in their life cycle. Okay. Most perennial plants will be polycarpic. Okay. Like apple, mango, grapes, etc. Fine. Now one thing is very important for you to learn here, that in polycarpic plants, because they will be giving a short break period in between two flowering phases, there will be a short break. That break period is when the plant will be undergoing or building up of resources so that it is preparing for the next flowering session. So that's why this gap period is also known as interflowering period or recovery phase. Recovery phase. Why? Because the plant is trying to recover its resources so that it can flower again. Okay? So, remember this term, recovery phase. So after the reproductive phase in plants, let us discuss a little bit regarding reproductive phase in animals. See, in animals as well, reproduction is a highly specific event. For example, the birds, they do not lay egg throughout the year, right? There is only a specific favorable condition in which they lay eggs. Now you might be asking me, what about those birds which are kept in captivity, like in the poultry farms? They are made to lay egg throughout the year, isn't it? But that is not going to be considered as reproduction. Rather, that is exploitation, commercial exploitation for our own benefit. Now, there is a very important thing for you to learn in this section. That is about two important terms called estrous cycle and menstrual cycle. Okay? They are estrous cycle and menstrual cycle. See, in animals, basically in the females of placental mammals, there are certain kind of cyclical changes that keeps occurring in their body, mainly in the activity of their ovaries or accessory ducts, or even in case of the hormones. So such cyclical events or changes which occurs in the body of the female, in case of non-primate animals or non-primate mammals, we will consider that to be estrous cycle. Like in case of cows or rat or deer or dog or tiger, it is going to be considered as estrous cycle. Changes or cyclical changes occurring in the body during reproductive phase in non-primate mammals will be termed as estrous cycle. But the same cyclical change which would be occurring in case of primates like monkeys, apes, including human beings, that will be considered as menstrual cycle. Understood that? So this will be happening in case of non-primates, and this would be occurring in case of primates. Okay? Examples here would be cow, dog, tiger, deer, rat, etc. Likewise, among this, the example would be human, apes, monkeys, etc. Alright? Now, do remember another important thing, that whenever these cyclic changes would be occurring, or these cycles would be occurring in a particular animal in seasonal basis, okay, in some specific seasons, then those animals will be termed as seasonal breeders. But for those animals throughout the reproductive phase who will keep on undergoing such cyclic changes, they would be considered as continuous breeders. Alright? Have you understood this, all of you? Fine. So now that reproductive phase is done with, let us start with let us begin with the third phase, that is the senescent phase. Okay? So the third phase is called senescent phase. Senescent phase is the third and the last phase that is present in the life cycle of an organism. Senescent phase is marked by aging. So there will be various types of deterioration that can be seen in the body of the organism. There will be metabolic rate that would slow down, or waste accumulation, and finally it would lead to death. So senescent phase is marked by aging, followed by death. Alright, so these were the three different phases present in the life cycle of an organism. Juvenile phase, which is marked by growth, then reproductive phase, which is marked by reproduction, and finally senescent phase, which is marked by aging leading to death. Alright, but do remember here again that this transition from one phase to another, it is under the control of hormones, okay, along with some environmental factors. Hormones plus environmental factors will finally decide upon the transition from one phase to another. Fine. So let us start with the next topic now, that is events in sexual reproduction. Alright. There are mainly three types of events associated with sexual reproduction. First, pre-fertilization events. Pre-fertilization events are the processes that involves before fertilization. Whatever processes are included before fertilization, they are called pre-fertilization events. Now, pre-fertilization events consist of gametogenesis, and second is gamete transfer. Let us discuss gametogenesis. Gametogenesis means gamete formation. Gamete formation. Male and female gamete formation is called gametogenesis. Alright. Now, there can be certain categories of gametes that are to be marked here, like categories of gametes. There can be two categories of gametes. First, isogametes. Isogametes means two gametes which are fusing together. If they are similar in their morphology, we call them isogametes or homogametes. So that means they are morphologically similar. Now, let me give you some examples. Like isogametes or homogametes are mostly found in certain algae or fungi. So in algae, we can take the example of Cladophora or Chlamydomonas, Deberiana or Ulothrix. Likewise, among fungi, we can take the example of Synchytrium, Rhizopus. The examples are very important, so mark them properly. After isogametes, the next thing that we are going to discuss are heterogametes. If the fusing gametes are dissimilar from one another, then they are known as heterogametes. Alright? So these are morphologically dissimilar. So here, the male gamete is mostly termed as sperm or antherozoid, whereas the female gamete is going to be termed as egg or ovum. Now if you ask me for examples, in that case, most of the sexually reproducing organisms have heterogametes. Okay, so this is the most common one. It will be prevalent in algae like fucus, volvox or chara. Alright, likewise it is going to be present in rest all bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperm and angiosperm, all. Alright, so this would be the examples of heterogametes, which is also an example. You anyways have learned about bryophyte, pteridophyte, gymnosperm, angiosperm, that they have the male gamete to be antherozoid, the female gamete to be the non-motile egg. All those things you have learned in the plant kingdom chapter already, isn't it? Now, related to cell division. Now, let us discuss a few things about cell division associated with gamete formation. Here, there is a very important point for you to learn. See, gametes, do remember, gametes are always haploid. That is a very, very important point. Gametes are always haploid. But the organisms producing the gametes can be haploid as well as diploid. So in that case, in haploid or diploid organisms, the haploid gametes, they are formed by different modes of or different types of cell division. Like if we talk about haploid organism, if an organism itself is haploid and it is trying to produce gametes, in that case it has to be produced by mitosis. Okay? So in haploid organisms, the gametes are produced by mitosis. Alright? Whereas if the organism is diploid, in that case the production of gametes here will be occurring by the reduction division, that is meiosis. This is a very, very important point to remember. Now, if you ask them that if haploid organisms are producing gametes by mitosis, in that case, don't the haploid organisms ever undergo meiosis in their life cycle? The answer is yes, they do undergo meiosis, but in this haploid organisms, what they do actually is that they will undergo mitosis to produce gametes. Those gametes will then fuse together and give rise to a diploid zygote. The zygote immediately after formation will undergo meiosis. Now here meiosis is taking place. This is called zygotic meiosis. So when the zygote will undergo meiosis, it will give rise to haploid spores. The spores will again undergo mitotic divisions, giving rise to many spores, and these spores will then form the body of the organism. Alright, so this is also very important for you to remember, that haploid organism might produce gametes by mitosis, but they do undergo meiosis and they undergo zygotic meiosis. Alright, now for the diploid organism on the other hand, because the organism is diploid, it undergoes reduction, division or meiosis to produce the gametes. So they undergo undergo gametic meiosis. This is the important difference. Haploid organisms undergo zygotic meiosis, and diploid organisms, because they are producing gametes by meiosis, they undergo gametic meiosis. Is that clear? So they undergo zygotic meiosis in their life cycle, whereas they undergo gametic meiosis. I hope this is